Hi guys, Mrs. Atkinson here. Today we are going to review for our topic 12 online assessment, which is going to be on Friday. This review is going to be so helpful to you. So please make sure that you're paying attention. You can watch this as many times as you want to. If you're feeling like you're struggling with some of these questions, please join me for our live review lesson as well, or definitely pop in during my office hours on Friday while we take the test. I'll be available for that whole hour, 9 to 10, and even after that too if you have questions, specifically pertaining to the test. All of these problems that I'm showing you on our review video today are taken specifically from tomorrow's test, meaning I have used the same exact questions, except I've changed the numbers around a little bit. So it's not, the same exact questions, but it's almost identical. So it's going to look familiar to you tomorrow when you take it, and hopefully you'll do really, really well. All right, so let's get started. There are 19 questions on tomorrow's test, but some questions have more than one part. So it's going to be really important that you scroll all the way down and make sure that you're really checking out the problem completely. All right, so our first question here is name the point on the number line for 3 and 76 hundredths. So the first thing you should do when you see any number line is just notice the beginning and the ending. So I have a 3 and a 5, so that means 4 is somewhere in here. All right, and so they want to do 3 and 76 hundredths. So this one is only showing me tenths, right? So if I look at the zoomed in portion of the number line, this is showing me hundredths. So I think my answer is going to be down here somewhere. And so let me just check out this one. I have 70 hundredths, 80 hundredths. So like this would be 71, 3.72, 3.73, 3.74, 3.75, 3.76. So I would say my answer would be C. And I could just go back and just double check that, let's see, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. And yes, that makes sense because that's 3 and 80 hundredths. So in this case, my answer would be C. And I don't want to write on this because I actually want to use this paper for my live review as well. But there, that would be your answer. All right, let's do the next one. All right. Molly buys a sandwich for $6.79 and a soft drink for $2.75. How much more did the sandwich cost than the soft drink? So when I see the words how much more, I am signaled that subtraction is the operation that I will be using. And I know that when I subtract decimals or add decimals, I want to make sure that I line up my decimal points. So I'm going to take the greater amount, which is 679, and subtract the lesser amount, which is 275. So 9 minus 5, well, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so that would be 4. 7 minus 7 is 0. I want to make sure I bring down that decimal point. And 6 take away 2 would be 4. So my answer would be, with a dollar sign, $4.04. All right, and all of these problems here, guys, I would love it if you at home, while you're doing this review, the best way to do it is to not just watch me solve the problem. It's to stop and try to solve it on your own, and then hit play again and see if you got the answer right. So you should really be doing that as we go through the questions. All right, here's another one. Select a decimal to make the comparison true. So here I have a blank and I want to put one of these pink numbers in the blank. So I'm looking for a number that is less than 33 hundredths. So 33 hundredths is going to be greater than the number that goes in this blank. So I'm looking for a number that is less. So 34 hundredths would be more. So that's not going to be it. 1800ths, yeah, that seems like it would be less, but I just want to check my other choices. So this is my maybe right now. 3300ths, well, that's the same, so that would be equal. And 5100ths, if I'm comparing these place values, I have a 0 and a 0, and then a 3 and a 5. The 5 is bigger than the 3, so 5100ths would actually be greater. So I think I'm going to go with this as my answer. 1800ths would be less than 3300ths. Let's take a look at these two problems over here. We have 300ths compared to 3/10ths. All right, if we're not sure how to compare these because they do look awfully similar, we're going to use the trick of starting all the way to the left. So I have my 0 and my 0, and I'm going to look for keep going until I see a place value spot that is different. So a 0 and a 0, that's the same. Hello, decimal point. And now I'm in the tenths column. I have a 0 and I have a 3. What's bigger, a 0 or a 3? A 3, of course, which makes 3/10ths bigger than 300ths. So my symbol would look like that. I'm going to write it over here for you. It would be a less than symbol right there. All right, let's do this one. We have 19 and 8700ths compared to 19 and 7800ths. All right, this is a tricky one because some kids might look at this really fast and be like, oh, they're equivalent. They're both, the same. But that is not the truth. So let's do our comparison trick where we start all the way to the left. We have a 1 and a 1. So let's keep moving. A 9 and a 9. Keep moving. Hello, decimal point. Keep moving. We have an 8 and a 7. Well, an 8 is bigger than a 7. Therefore, our symbol would be a greater than symbol, right? 19 and 8700ths is greater than 19 and 7800ths. All right, here we go. We have Mrs. Atkinson recorded the weather for the past 100 days. It rains on 27 of the days. Which fraction and decimal represents how many days it rained? So they're saying 27 out of 100 is the days that it rained, right? So 2700ths. So we want the decimal and we want the fraction for 2700ths. If I look here, I like that one right there, but that is not 2700ths. That's 2 and 7/10ths, so that's not going to work. Let's see, 2700ths. Ooh, I like that. 2 and 700ths. No, that's not going to work. Let's look down here. 73. Well, that's not even close, right? I'm looking for 2700ths. So let's go down here. 2700ths, check. And 2700ths, check. So it looks like D would be my correct answer. And I'm wondering, why would they even put this as a choice, the 7300ths, right? Here's why. A common mistake could be, what if you read the problem wrong and you said, well, how many, days didn't it rain? Did it not rain, right, out of those 100 days? Because 100 minus 27 would give me 73. So that might be how somebody interprets the question, and then they pick C accidentally. But we didn't do that. All right, let's keep moving on. All right, so for these kinds of problems, which you'll see on the test, they're going to ask you to write a decimal and a fraction for the shaded part of the diagram. So we're going to just kind of zoom in a little bit further so that you can see this. Autofocus. Okay, so each of these grids are hundredths grids. And if we look at the first example, we can see that, let's see, how many of them are shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 100 are shaded. So that would be the fraction, 400ths. And if we were writing that as a decimal, we would write it like that. The 4 is landing in the hundredth spot, right? That's tenths, that's hundredths. Let's take a look at this guy. So we have one hole that is filled up, and then let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. So our fraction would be 1 and 54 hundredths. And then if we were writing that as a decimal, we would write 1 and 54 hundredths, just like that. And finally, our last example, let's see how many are shaded in, 10, 20, 30, and then it looks like 9, so 39 hundredths or 39 hundredths. Excellent. All right, so for our next part, we are actually doing some addition of fractions. And whenever we add fractions of any kind, we know that we need to have a common denominator. So if we don't have a common denominator, we need to get one. And as I said, all of the fractions that we'll be adding in topic 12 have denominators of either a 10 or 100. So whenever we're adding them, we need to have them make the same denominator. And we're typically going to go and make those 10s into 100s because it always will work that way. Now, when we talk about getting a common denominator, sometimes it's easy to just think, oh, I'll just add a 0 on and then I'll add a 0 onto the top. But what we're really doing is we're multiplying the numerator and denominator by 10. When we do that, I'm just going to recopy the problem. You should be solving this at home if you can. When we do that, what we're going to want to do is change these guys to denominators of 100. So this one we don't have to change because it already has a denominator of 100. But how did we go from a 10 to a 100? Well, we multiplied by 10. So now we have to multiply 4 by 10. So 4 times 10 is 40. Same thing over here. We changed the denominator to a 100. So we have to multiply the 3 by 10. So that makes it 30. And now we can add everything up. Our denominator is going to stay the same. And we're going to add 40 plus 30 plus 13. And when you add that up, 4 plus 4 is 8. We get 83 hundredths. So our answer would be 83 hundredths. Let's try another one. We have 3 tenths plus, erase that, 3 hundredths plus 3 tenths. All right. We can make our denominator for our 10. Let's just recopy the problem. Instead of keeping it a 10, I'm going to make it a 100. By doing that, I also have to make that 3 into a 30, and now I can solve my problem. So 3 plus 30 is 33, so my answer would be 33 hundredths. All right, next problem. For this guy, it says drag the numbers from the box to show equivalent fractions and decimals. And when you see this problem on the computer, you will actually be physically able to drag these little pieces into wherever that they go. So let's talk about them. This one I feel like could really be tricky for a lot of kids. So really pay attention to what I'm saying here in this problem. All right, so one thing that I like to think about first is the decimals. So if I have 5, I'm going to say this, it would be 5 tenths. So I look down here and do I see any 5 tenths? Oh, yes, right there, right? So this guy would be right there. I really don't want to write on this because I want to try to use it again. Okay, so my 5 tenths would be right here. What else? Let's try this one. If that's 5 tenths, this guy, this decimal would be 5 hundredths. So that would go right here. All right, that just leaves me with these two. One of these equals a 5 and the other one equals 50. And I want to show you kind of like a trick that I like to do. I'm actually going to rewrite this problem a little bit. All right, so if I have 500 tenths, which is the same as this guy, and 500 hundredths, which is the same as that guy, look at what I can do with my zeros. Let's see, I can cross that out and cross those out. And what am I left with? 5 over 1. And whenever we have a numerator that is greater than that 1, it kind of sinks it down. Anything over 1 is just that whole number 5. So 500 over 100 would actually be the same thing as 5. And let's see if that works for our other guy. I can cross out those two zeros. And what am I left with? A 50 over a 1, which is really just a 50. So that would be that one, right? So it kind of goes there. All right, let's move on to our next problem. Choose yes or no to tell if the comparison is correct. So we're just simply doing some comparisons here with our decimals. We want to make sure we're comparing the same place values. So just take a look at this one. 42 and 39 hundredths. And then we have 4 and blah, blah, blah. Well, even if we don't even care about the rest of the decimal portion, what's bigger, a 42 or the number 4, right? 42 is bigger. So yes, this problem would be correct. Sorry. All right, so yes for that guy. All right, let's take the next one. We have 32 and 25 hundredths, and then we have a 3 and 52 hundredths. Well, again, I can compare them, right? This guy right here has nothing in the 10 spot, so that's a 0. I could draw that 0 if I wanted to. And this one has a 3 in the 10 spot. So the 32 is definitely going to be bigger. So the mouth is eating the greater number, so that is correct. Yes. Let's take a look at the next one. These both have a 0. Hello, decimal point. If we move over, I have a 5, and then I have a 7. A 7 is greater than 5, so 75 hundredths is greater than 57 hundredths. So this guy is actually wrong. They're wrong about that. The sign should be facing the other way. The mouth should be eating the 75 hundredths. And let's try this next one. We both have an 8, then we have a decimal point, and then we have a 3 and a 2. A 3 is greater than a 2, therefore the mouth should be eating 8 and 32 hundredths. So this guy is the wrong symbol, so no. All right, now, again, I want to reiterate, please don't memorize the order that these are in. If you recognize this question when you're taking the test, please know that I've switched around the orders of things. So it's important to solve every problem. All right, here's a number line problem. It says, name the point on the number line for 8 and 67 hundredths. So again, familiarize yourself with the number line. I have an 8.5, 8.56, so 8.61, 8.70. All right, and what am I looking for? 8 and 67 hundredths. So, like, would this make sense? This would be 8 and 51 hundredths, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. Okay. 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, right? 68, 69, and 8.70. All right, so it looks like D is my answer. Notice how, though, I didn't just look and take a guess. I really kind of checked myself and went all the way through the number line just to make sure what I was saying and what I was landing on matched up. So D would be our answer for that guy. And here's another one. Which fraction best describes point W on the number line? So here's W. We want to know the fraction that goes along with it. So we have a 12 here. We have a 12 and 5/8. We have a 13. So like between a 12 and a 13, how many leaps are there? All right, let's just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so this number line is divided into eighths. And that makes sense because this point right here is 12 and 5/8. So this would be like 12 and 1/8. I'm thinking this guy would be 12 and 2/8. W, I think, is 12 and 3/8, but let me just keep going. 12 and 4/8, 12 and 5/8, 12 and 6/8, 12 and 7/8, right? And we'd actually have to, and then 12 and 8/8 would be 13. So yeah, so it looks like W would be 12 and 3/8 if we had to name a fraction for that point on the number line. Excellent. All right, here's another one. Find 7/100ths plus 4/10ths. All right, again, whenever we add fractions, we know that we need to have a common denominator. So, easiest thing to do is to turn that 10 into a 100. We're multiplying top and bottom by 10. Therefore, it changes to 40/100ths instead of just 4/10ths. We know they're equivalent. Now we're going to add them. A common mistake, guys, that I see all the time is that kids will do this. But why is that wrong? It isn't 74/100ths. Our answer, what's 40 plus a 7? It's 47/100ths. And that's the correct answer there. I just wanted to point out that common misconception. All right. So they want to know here, we found the answer, but really that wasn't even the question. The question was, which equation can be used to find the sum of 7/100ths and 4/10ths? But when we were doing our answer, we kind of did that. So let's look for that. We're looking for 7/100ths plus 40/100ths. And if I look at all of these choices, here is my winner. 7/100ths plus 40/100ths equals n, which is the number we're looking for, our variable. And then part B just says what's the answer. So if you were going to add those up, we would get 47/100ths. Here's another one. A store had 100 different products. Before a holiday, 83 different products were sold. Which decimal represents how many of the different products were not sold? This is really important. So we've done a problem similar to this, but this one is a little bit different because it wants to know the decimal representing the products that were not sold. So 83 out of 100 were sold. So how many were not? Well, to find that, you would have to do 100 minus 83, and we would get 17 as our answer. So 17 out of 100 were not sold. So 17/100ths is what we're looking for. When we look at our choices, that could be a common mistake because maybe they didn't see the word not. So this one might be something that a kid thinks is correct, even though it's not. This guy says 17,000ths, so that's not it. This guy, choice C, says 1 7/10ths, that's not it. And D looks like our winner, 17/100ths. So D would be our answer there. All right. My son helped me make up this question. Ryan collected 100 football cards. 34 of the cards are Baltimore Ravens players, and 22 of them are Kansas City Chiefs. What decimal represents the part of the cards that are Baltimore Ravens? So if we go back to the question, it says 34 out of the 100, right? So if you're writing that as a fraction, it would be 34/100ths. But as a decimal, we would write it like this, 34/100ths. So that would be the answer there. And if we go down a little bit further, it has a follow-up question. Remember to keep your eyes open for those multi-part questions on the test. What decimal represents the part of the cards that are neither Ravens nor Kansas City Chiefs? So really pay attention to these words. So if we add it, let's see, there were 34 Ravens and 22 Chiefs. So first we have to add that up. 34 plus 22 will give me the total number of cards that are Kansas City or Ravens. So 4, 5, 6, and that would be 5. So that would be 56 out of 100 are Ravens or Chiefs. So how many would not be, right? So now we have to do 100 minus 56 to get our answer, right? So if we were going to do that, solve it by subtraction, this is what we would get, 44. So 44, and we want to put it as a decimal, so it would be 0.44. 44 hundredths would be neither Ravens nor the Chiefs. That one's a little tricky there. You got to really pay attention to how that question is worded. All right, 2 more questions, but this one's not so bad. The next one's a little bit lengthy. Hang in there. We're almost done. Home stretch. All right, Sally writes a number that shows 40 parts out of 100. Select all that could be Sally's number. All right, so 40 out of 100. I'm not even going to look at the choices. I'm just going to think about that. I could write it as a fraction like that. I also know, let's see, 40 hundredths as a decimal would look like that. I also know that 40 hundredths is the same as 4 tenths, right? So I could also maybe have something like that, right? If I cross off these 2 zeros, I'm left with 4 tenths. So I feel like any of these are going to be possibilities. Let's take a look. So I have 40 hundredths. Oh, yes, that would be a good one. That would be check. How about 40 tenths? Not 40 tenths. If they had 4 tenths, that would have been right, but not 40 tenths. Let's see, 4 tenths here. Yeah, that would be right. 40 hundredths, of course. And we have here 4 hundredths. No, that's not going to work. All right, that's different. All right, so those would be my 3 choices. All of those could be Sally's number. All right, and now for the very last question. This question is on the test, and I just changed the numbers slightly and changed the person who was shopping to make it myself. So I like to shop, you know how that is. I do also like shopping at craft stores, especially when I can find myself some new markers and some new teacher things. So I went to the craft store and I took some money with me. And I'm actually going to use real money to show you. On the actual test, you will have to add up the money, and they give you pictures, and the pictures are very realistic. So you need to be able to identify the money that they show you. So I have a 20. Right? I have a 10. I have a 5. Oops, sorry, you can't even see that. A 20, a 10, and a 5. And then I have 3 single dollar bills. Right? So right now, I want you to add all of that up. I also have, let me see if I can get this in the picture a little bit better for you. So a 20, a 10, a 5, 3 singles. I have a quarter, 1 dime, 1 nickel, and then 3 pennies. So add that up. All right. So when you add that up, let's take a look. We should have 20 plus 10 would be 30, 35, 36, 37, 38. So we have $38. 25 cents plus 10 would be 35, 40, 41, 42, 43. So I'm running out of scrap paper here. I have $38 and what did I say again? 43 cents, right? 38.43. All right, so I'm going to push that money aside. If you have trouble identifying and adding money, that's something that we really should definitely practice. Ask your parents at home if you can borrow some of like their money in their wallet. Tell them you'll give it back, of course, and just practice counting change. It's something that's a very valuable life skill. All right. So this is how much money Mrs. Atkinson has, $38.43. And so that's the answer to the first question. But now there's a lot of other parts that go along with this question. It says Mrs. A finds an amazing new set of Mr. Sketch markers for $14.27 and a new plan book for $8. Does she have enough money to buy all 5 items? Now, what they mean is these 2 items here plus the 3 items that are in the chart, right? Some beads, some string, and you know I love my storages. Storage boxes are good. All right, so if not, how much more money does she need? So does she have enough? Let's figure that out first. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add together all of these things. The thing that you want to remember is when you're adding decimals, the key thing is to make sure you're lining up your decimal point and place values. So these decimal points have to be in line with each other. That is critical. So then I have $14.27, and then I have $8. Now, I like everything to be nice and orderly. So sometimes I like to just fill in my places with zeros just to make sure that it's nice and lines up. So now I'm going to add all of these up. So you should be doing this at home. You can pause the video if necessary. And when I add all of this up, let's see, where am I here? Sorry, 5, 4, and all right, now I could have made a mistake, but I think that is correct. So hopefully you got the same thing at home. $41.45. So does she have enough? No, right? She does not have enough. And the question is, if not, how much more money does she need? So in order to find that out, I am going to have to subtract $41.45. That's how much it costs. This is how much Mrs. Atkinson has. And when I subtract those amounts, I need $3.02 more. Oh, if only I had $3.02 more, I could buy everything that I wanted to buy. All right. There is another part, though, but I promise you this is the very last part of this question. Mrs. Atkinson's mother gives her $10 to help buy supplies. Thanks, Mom. Mrs. Atkinson decides to purchase 2 bags of beads. All right. The Mr. Sketch markers, of course, the storage box, and the plan book. How much money does she have left after purchasing these 5 items? All right. So thanks, Mom, for that extra $10. So now, instead of just having $38.43, right, which is how much I had to begin with, all right, instead of having $38.43, I have now $10 more. So I have $48.43. Okay. And now I have to figure out how much all of these other things cost. So 2 bags of beads. So the beads are $3.85 each, and I'm buying 2 of them. Okay, keep it real. Make sure I'm doing it right. Then what else does she buy? The Mr. Sketch markers. And the Mr. Sketch markers were $14.27. Okay. And what else? The storage box, which was $12.35. You can see how it'd be easy to make a mistake on this problem. And finally, the plan book, which was $8. All right. So if I add all of this up, let's see what I get. 10, 15. All right. So I think it would be $42.32 when I add up all of the things that I want to buy. And how much money do I have? Oh, 48. Good thing I have enough. 48, 43. And the question is asking, how much money does she have left after purchasing these items? So now I'm going to subtract 48, 43 minus $42.32. 3 minus 2 would be 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. 8 minus 2 will be 6, and 4 minus 4 is nothing. I have exactly $6.11 left after all is said and done. And I should go buy my mom a cup of coffee with that, I think, for lending me all that money. All right, guys, and that's it. That is a preview of every single question that you are going to have on tomorrow's test. So here is my final message to you. Good luck. You're going to do great. I have so much confidence in you guys. And don't forget that you can ask me questions anytime. I'll be on that live Zoom from 9 to 10 a.m. on Friday morning. So if I were you, I would, in the morning log right on and I would just do your math test first and get it over with. All right, guys, have a great night and I'll talk to you soon.